Welcome back to 4K Kings. My name is Matt, and with me as always is Russ, and today we are going to be diving into our entire Blu-ray 4K DVD collection. It's what a lot of people have been asking for, and Russ and I are finally giving you what you want. We're going to be starting with Arrow, we're going to move along to Steelbooks, Scream Factory, television shows, large, fun, oversized, and everything in between. We hope you enjoy, so let's get started.
First on my list of Arrow alphabetical, I have to begin with numbers. 12 Monkeys. A great scuzzy exploitation 70s horror flick, Alice Sweet Alice.
American Werewolf in London. This is actually the 4K release. I picked this up long after the Blu-ray one had come out. This is pretty much your typical Arrow style release with the hard box, booklet, and a regular emery case with the original art. A must own for any Arrow collection.
Takashi Miike's unsettling masterpiece, Audition. Some of the most bizarre shit you'll ever see, The Baby. Arguably Henenlotter's most notable work, Basket Case. Beyond Reanimator. The Thanksgiving masterpiece, Blood Rage. My personal favorite Henenlotter flick, Brain Damage. Part 2 in the Stuart Gordon-Brian Usna trilogy, Bride of Reanimator. The original masterpiece, not that modern bullshit, Candyman. One of my favorites in recent years, Gaspar Noé's Climax. The David Cronenberg masterpiece that was his departure from body horror, Crash.
Next up we have Creepshow 2, which is coming from Arrow. Not as strong as Creepshow 1, but a fun film nonetheless, and was happy to pick this up from Arrow. Ton of great features. In a regular box, mine didn't come with a slipcase. Let me know if yours did.
Underseen gem of a film directed by Ken Russell, starring Kathleen Turner, Crimes of Passion. The William Friedkin masterpiece starring Al Pacino, cruising. This beautiful Demons 1 and 2 set. De Niro and De Palma, the early years. I was blown away that this set got released. De Palma is one of my favorite directors of all time. De Niro is inarguably one of the greatest actors of all time. And in this set, you get The Wedding Party, Greetings, and Hi Mom. They were his first films. They were all indie, late 60s, New York, avant-garde, counterculture. If you want to see the growth of one of the greatest directors of all time, in my opinion, you got to start at the beginning. And Arrow gifted us such an amazing release with this, and I thank you kindly.
Next up for letter D is one of my personal favorites, Donnie Darko, and an outstanding collection from Arrow. Once again, this seems like on its face to be a regular standard Arrow release, which it kind of is in a way, but if you kind of take a look at it side by side with American Werewolf in London, you'll notice that there is quite a difference in thickness here. This is a little bit of a thicker box. Inside you have the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and another disc filled with features with some pretty awesome artwork with Frank the Bunny Rabbit on the front. I actually kind of like this artwork a little bit better than the 4K release, so I'm happy to own this one, and it's a great gem in my collection.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Funny story, I have this both in Region A and Region B, as I did not know if this was going to be released in North America. There were tons of rights issues at the time. Worst case scenario, I have 2 copies of Elvira.
One of my favorite new pickups that I got from Arrow, actually not that long ago. It sold out pretty quickly, and actually I'm kind of sad that it came with a little bit of a ding on it. But nonetheless, it's an outstanding collection. I think this is one of my favorite things that I've picked up from them lately. It's got 5 really awesome old school VHS favorites in here. Dungeon Master, Arena, Robot Jocks, Dolls, Cellar Dweller, and a really awesome booklet that goes with this, that just goes into detail with every single one of these releases. You've got new art, original art, and posters to go with all of these. There's a nice little lid that goes on top of it, and then a slipcase that goes over the entire package. So if you had a chance to pick this up, good for you. If you didn't, maybe it's still out there for eBay, but it is one of my favorites in the past few years.
Terry Gilliam's linear and completely not confusing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Henenlotter's secret masterpiece, Frankenhooker. You all know you want a date.
Next up is the Hellraiser box set, which we have covered extensively on this channel. Recently, when Arrow put out their 4K announcement and we covered that, I went on to say that I kind of like this release a little bit better, and I mentioned that I wasn't going to upgrade. I still don't think I'm going to. I'm a really huge fan of this release right here. Really awesome packaging, really awesome box. Got this excellent art of Pinhead on the front. Can't beat that. On the inside, you've got this really nice angled look with several different cases in there that all hold the different films. You've got the booklet and a hardback book inside, which is outstanding as well. One of the gems of my collection, one of the jewels in my crown, and that is the Hellraiser box set from Arrow on Blue.
John McNaughton's classic Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. While not my favorite Wes Craven film, a bad Craven film is still a great ride. The Hills Have Eyes. House 2, The Second Story. One of my favorite horror films of all time. I believe this was the first horror film I had ever seen. You could argue if it's horror. I know it's horror comedy, but I was maybe 5 years old. So some of the stuff, particularly with Slim at the end of the film, hit me so hard, and I believe kickstarted a love of horror that lasted me my entire life. If you need any more proof of what a fanboy I am of this film, look no further than my arm. Everyone's favorite childhood film, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This beautiful 4K import of King of New York. I've mentioned it already. Farrar is one of my favorite filmmakers, arguably his most accessible film, without sacrificing the grit and the violence and everything that we loved about Ms. 45, China Girl, Walken, Fishburne, Snipes, Buscemi, Giancarlo Esposito. If you're a hip-hop fan, if you're a Walken fan, if you're a fan of New York, just great gritty films, and have not seen this one, do yourself a favor. Next up in L, we have the brilliant exploitation masterpiece, Wes Craven's Last House on the Left. I could talk all day about this film, its tone about morality, what it was originally based on. I'm sure everyone will tell us in the comments, but one of the grittiest films, still impactful to this day. The remake proved you cannot touch this one.
Coming up for M, I got Mallrats here. Again, this is the Blu-ray release, not the 4K that recently came out. I believe Russ will be showcasing his 4K. This did not come with a hard box or any of those kinds of things. It does have a poster and a little bit of an insert with some information about the film on here. It is introduced by Kevin Smith, and there's a ton of features on here. Nice slipcase, nice original art on there. One of the best films in Kevin Smith's filmography, and one of the best films in my Arrow collection.
I double dipped on your asses. This is the original Blue release of Mallrats. That probably was a 4K scan, and I played myself. Jumping back into the 4Ks, I am showcasing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I actually am a huge fan of this film. It was introduced to me in high school in an 11th grade English class. I loved how serious it was and very faithful to the novel. I'm a fan of the novel as well. I was a little disappointed when I pre-ordered this. I was under the illusion that it was a collector's edition. I assumed it would at least come with a slip, but as you can see, just a kind of standard Arrow release, but I'm happy to have the film in 4K. The camp classic and staple of my childhood, My Stepmother is an Alien, the Kim Basinger, Dan Aykroyd masterpiece of a film. This film taught me sex.
Coming up for P, who doesn't love Vin Diesel and who doesn't love Pitch Black? When Arrow announced they were putting this out, I was absolutely ecstatic, and I picked it up right away. This was a day one purchase. I know there's been a lot of other 4K releases out there, especially in Germany and so forth, but this is the one that I picked up. It's got a ton of features on here. The picture looks great. Vin Diesel looks great. This is absolutely a release that you must have in your collection.
Brian Usna's, Stuart Gordon's, Barbara Crampton's, everyone's highest achievement who was involved. The classic Reanimator in this beautiful set. I needed to upgrade on 4K. I think I missed the boat, but as is, I'm happy with this packaging, and it's such a great film.
Another standard release from Arrow, similar to Mallrats. This is my R release, and this is Rec, R-E-C, which is a foreign language found footage horror film, which is one of the best that I've ever seen. If that's a genre you kind of feel like is played out, give this one a chance. It's a great zombie film. It's a great found footage horror film. It's very contained and compact in one building. Low budget and lo-fi, but that's what adds to the charm. This is something that kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time I watched it, and I was so excited when Arrow put this out in all its glory. Sticking with ours, and one of my personal favorites, one of my childhood favorites, one of my favorites that Arrow has ever put out. I'm talking about RoboCop.
You are definitely not watching this channel if you are not a fan of this film.
And this is the RoboCop release that Arrow put out originally on Blu-ray. Now they have put out the 4K release, which is identical packaging, identical insides, just a 4K upgrade.
I was so ecstatic when this came out. Beautiful packaging, beautiful case. What did Arrow do to me next?
I did not go out of my way and rebuy this all over again in 4K, but what I did do...
This artwork is iconic to me, so I had to double dip myself and get the 4K Steelbook of RoboCop.
Was buy the Steelbook and house it in my Blu-ray box. So Arrow also put this out on a steel, which is the original art. It's one of my favorite Steelbooks that I own. I will be covering this in the Steelbook segment as well, but I picked this up on the side and then I slide it into my Blu-ray box, and it just makes me so happy. I don't know if you've out there have received the 4K RoboCop before, if you have this set or the newer one or the Steelbook, but let me know below.
Jumping into a little bit of blaxploitation, arguably this is not the strongest of the genre or of Pam Grier's career. This was seen at the time as more of a push towards the mainstream to make Pam Grier a star. Not a bad film by any means, but don't go in expecting Foxy Brown or Coffee. Still a worthy addition to any Arrow collection. My man Yuzna didn't work with Gordon and came out with Society. This packaging is rad. If you have never seen this movie, it's an underseen gem. It is worth sitting through for the infamous orgy scene at the end of it, which is beautifully illustrated on this packaging. I would say to this day, this is one of my favorite Arrow packaging, releases, artwork. I know Matt sometimes complains about artwork going into spoiler territory, but I don't care. Even if you think you're spoiled by this, you are not. Going back to the exploitation genre, one of my personal favorites, Switchblade Sisters. I previously owned a blue release of this, which I kept and I recommend you keeping as well, because it features the Quentin Tarantino commentary, which this release does not. This does come with a plethora of extras that were not available before. It subverts your expectations. By the end of the film, you genuinely care about everyone. This is almost like a Tarantino movie made in the 1970s.
Coming up for teas, and I got a pair of teas right here, starting with Tremors and ending up with True Romance. Both of these are two of my favorites from Arrow, and I'm here to talk about them right now. These are very standard Arrow affairs, much like American Werewolf in London, much like RoboCop. This is your standard hardback box with a booklet, a poster, some art cards, as well as the feature film inside. Tremors was actually one of the first releases that we covered on this channel, and I'm proud to show it here today. It's one of my favorite classic childhood films as well.
This is probably one of the greatest first horror films to show a child.
This came with a poster, booklet, and everything else, and this also came with a regular Amaray case, whereas True Romance is a little bit different.
Shout out to Mark and Raised on Fiction. My next selection is True Romance.
If you have been a long-time subscriber of this channel, you know there's a long history with True Romance that has deep lore, which we cannot possibly cover today.
I should have known that this was going to sell out immediately, but I stalled, and Mark, a friend of the channel's, picked me up one of these.
But this was a deluxe version that was released through Zavvi. Arrow had its own, Zavvi had their own, but this is the deluxe release that came with the Steelbook. You got Bama on the front, Clarence on the back, original art drawing, which I think is excellent. This was also original art on the hard box. An outstanding release, an outstanding Steelbook. Arrow, you've outdone yourselves again.
I actually have to thank Mark more than Arrow.
Coming up next for V's is Videodrome, one of my new favorite movies that came out 40 years ago. I'm smitten with this movie ever since I got the chance to check it out. Thank you, Arrow, for making that possible. This is the 4K release here, which is the limited edition Arrow version. They had put out a original art version that had Debbie Harry on the cover, which was the same version they put out before on Blue.
I had to go with the Debbie Harry cover. It might not be accurate portrayal of what the film is, but as a Debbie Harry fan, as a James Woods fan, as a Cronenberg fan, this is a must-own.
And again, very standard Arrow fare, hardback box, booklet, pictures, all that kind of stuff. And this one here, I switched around the art on the inside, which I like to do. They had the original art on the box on the inside, but there was reversible art, which in order to have a little bit of something different when I open this up is what I chose to go with. If you haven't picked this up, I highly recommend it, Videodrome.
For the W's and hot off the presses, we have Weird Science in 4K. I admittedly haven't had the chance to dive into this just yet, but I can't wait to see the transfer. The funnest transfers to witness are the ones of the movies you grew up on watching on VHS. And this is one of those titles for me that was a constant rewatch in my upbringing. From the director of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Arrow's Wild Things. I was over the moon about this release. I didn't expect this film to get this treatment, and honestly, upon revisiting the film, I forgot how sharp, clever, funny, just everything. It really was, in some ways, ahead of its time. Great film, Wild Things.
Lastly in my Arrow collection is Wolf of Wall Street. Here with the W's, and this is the last one. And I kind of thought I had a lot more Arrow than this. We talk a lot about Arrow. I've purchased a lot in my life, but after going through all these, I feel like I don't have nearly enough. I know Russ has a lot, and I felt like I had a lot, but here we are at the end anyway with W, and that's Wolf of Wall Street. One of the more interesting releases that Arrow put out, and also fun at the same time. I never thought in a million years I would see Arrow putting out Wolf of Wall Street in 4K. Didn't really seem like something that they would do, but alas, they did. And not only did they do that, but they decided to make it fun by putting on the inside here a little bit of a wallet replica. And when you open that up, you've got all kinds of American Excess cards. You've got a Stratton Oakmont business card. You've got a $100 bill, and you've even got a little bit of Coke in there. How fun is that? Plus a great movie to go inside, and what more could you ask for? Another fine release from Arrow, another great movie, Wolf of Wall Street.
And for the Y's, last but not least, I have Your Vice is a Locked Room, and only I have the key. It's one of Edwige Finici's known films, and she is a goddess, honestly. The movie could be trash. You would not be able to take your eyes off her. But I'm a fan of giallos. I'm a fan of the melodrama. I'm a fan of the romanticism. This is a nice little hypnotic gem if you want to kind of dip your toes into that Italian giallo water.
Thank you so much for watching. Leave us a comment down below and let us know what you thought. What are we missing? What do we have that you're excited about as well? Do we have everything that you've already got, or are there some gems in there that you didn't even know existed? Let us know, and we're going to keep on going through our collection here from A to Z through boutiques, television, Steelbooks, fun and oversized, and everything in between. Keep a lookout for those as we continue to upload those to the channel throughout the rest of the year, giving you a closer look into us as collectors and what we love as much as you love. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you soon.